Yo, what's going on, yo? I'm JB Hoops, and today I'm going to be breaking down the game of a potential number 1 pick challenger in the 2025 draft, the 18-year-old freshman sensation out of Rutgers, Dylan Harper. Harper has gotten off to an outstanding start to his freshman season, putting up some crazy numbers and some very memorable games and highlights. And in this video, I'm going to discuss his strengths and improvement areas and evaluate what makes him such an enticing NBA prospect. Before we get into it, I'm going to go over his stats. So through 11 games, the 6'6" guard is putting up 23.5 points, good for 3rd in the nation in scoring, along with 4.8 rebounds and 4.4 assists on 62.7% true shooting, as well as some very impressive advanced stats. Okay, now let's break down his game. Starting off with his biggest strengths, being his advantage creation ability, finishing, playmaking, and perimeter defense. First up, I want to talk about one of Harper's greatest traits, which is his advantage creation ability and dominance as a downhill creator. Harper has a relatively tight and creative handle with a deep bag, which enables him to attack defenses and create separation off the bounce. Through 11 games, he's getting to the rim and converting at a ridiculous rate, particularly in the half court, where the value of creating high quality shots and forcing rotations is amplified due to the set defenses. The Rutgers star freshman stacks up incredibly well against the elite driving creative prospects of previous years, like SGA, James Harden, Markelle Fultz, and Cade Cunningham, boasting a higher rim frequency at 48.6% and percentage at 71.4% than all of them, whilst 81.7% of them attempts are unassisted. Dylan is also a really smart decision maker who anticipates coverages and what the defense is going to do before executing his moves. He's strong against pretty much any pick and roll coverage, capable of splitting doubles or blitzes, drawing bigs out to the perimeter, and creating advantages for him and his teammates to capitalize on. Where Harper ranks in the 94th percentile in pick and roll possessions, including passes at over 1.2 points per possession. He also has a quick first step, although it's not the main factor in Harper's effectiveness beating defenders. He's shifty and utilizes an array of head fakes, twitchy movements, and change of pace, along with his deep bag of counters to shuffle defenders and quickly attack gaps as they develop. He also possesses awesome balance, coordination, and strength to take contact and maintain driving angles to slither his way through defenders, controlling his stride length and power to generate quality looks for himself time and time again. Now, he's definitely not without his weaknesses as a creator. Harper does favour his left hand a bit, so I'd like to see some more spontaneity as he can be a bit predictable, driving to the cup when he goes left and going to a jumper or dishing when he goes to his right. He can also get tunnel vision and dribble into trouble at times, get a bit lax with his handle, especially whilst changing direction and taking contact, but the offensive responsibility and defensive attention he's facing as a freshman is ridiculous, so it's not something I'm particularly concerned about long term. But regardless, Harper is a spectacular advantage creator and has the ability to completely take over games. And this was clear as day in Harper's 2 best outings so far, his back-to-back games against Notre Dame and Alabama, in which he dropped 36 and 6 assists on the first night, followed by 37 against one of the best teams in college hoops. That second half versus Notre Dame was special and one of the best prospect halves I've seen. Every single possession felt like it needed to be orchestrated by Harper, and then to back it up, he went on to dominate Alabama in a tough loss. Over both games, he was torching defenders off the bounce, getting to the rim at will and drawing a ton of fouls, combining to shoot 17 of 22 at the rim and get 30 free throw attempts, which is insane. Not only is Harper adept at creating advantages off the bounce, he's also a great passer who leverages his potency as a scorer to create passing angles and opportunities to set up high quality looks for his teammates. His pick and roll playmaking has been awesome, using his change of pace, handle, and frame to capitalize on the initial advantage, engage multiple defenders, and navigate through digs whilst reading the help before making a timely and accurate pass. Dylan Harper can make a wide variety of passes, both standstill or on the move, including skip passes with either hand, hitter heads in transition, kickouts, pocket passes, and interior dimes. This clip right here was particularly impressive to me, showing him using his frame to put his defender in jail whilst engaging the big before kicking it out to a wide open shooter. He can get a bit flustered at times when facing aggressive pick and roll coverages and double teams, or when defenders heavily load the gaps and dig in on his drives, and also when he picks up his dribble in traffic, leading to a few poor decisions. But to be honest, that's to be expected in a high usage star freshman, and in spite of the few standard misreads or poor decisions, Dylan still holds a very solid 1.92 assist to turnover ratio, which, considering Harper's incredibly high offensive load and responsibility, plus the fact that he's an 18-year-old freshman, makes it all the more impressive. Harper also does a fantastic job at capitalizing on the advantages he creates with his elite finishing ability. Dylan is such a nuanced finisher with a deep bag of creative gathers to avoid digs and evade rim protectors. He's comfortable playing off of 2, coming to a jump stop and using his footwork and frame to shake defenders and finish inside. And if he has a mismatch down low, they have no choice but to foul or fully collapse in on him. Harper consistently finishes layups from absurdly tough angles to avoid shot blockers, using his length and athleticism to hang and adjust through tight windows to finish, and can do so comfortably with either hand, which has really impressed me, seeing as that wasn't really the case in his final high school and EYBL seasons. And the numbers certainly back up this high praise, with Harper converting on an absurd 67.8% of his half-court attempts at the cup, with a large majority of them looks being self-created. His last step explosiveness also seems to have improved since his high school days in my opinion, and that's evident through his dunks in traffic and ability to elevate, plus the 5 half-court dunks he has 11 games into the season. Whilst he does do an amazing job at using his big frame to create contact and draw fouls, he can also throw up some ill-advised shots looking to get calls, but that's being pretty nitpicky. Additionally, he might get into a bit more trouble going up with his left on the right side against NBA caliber athletes and shot blockers, but overall Harper is a tremendous finisher inside, and it's a huge reason why he is so effective offensively. Another piece of his game that may set him apart from the other guards in this class and star creators of previous years is his impact and versatility on the defensive end, guarding multiple positions with his combination of lateral movement, physical tools and anticipation. Harper can sit down in the stance and really commit to shutting his matchup down, especially in late clock situations. He slides his feet and flips his hips very well, and has a really strong core to take bumps through his chest and not give up positioning, or fall off balance to give the offensive player an opening to attack. He's allowed just 2 buckets in 10 ISO possessions defended this season, with the caveat that the sample is obviously very low volume and tracking data can be a bit wonky, but it's certainly promising and aligns with the eye test. Harper is capable of getting skinny around screens and staying attached at the hip, but his anticipation and focus can be off at times, and he can be punished pretty easily if the offensive player rejects the screen or pulls up. He can also open his hips up too quickly and give the driver an angle to attack, be a bit jumpy at times or opt to poke when he's beat and put himself out of position, and not make too much of an effort to recover. But all in all, Dylan Harper is a very intriguing defensive prospect with the tools, technique and ability to be a real difference maker on that end. But his heavy offensive load, effort and discipline are currently limiting how much of an impact he can make. Now onto the major improvement areas, being his shooting, in-between game and team defense. The main area of Harper's game that will elevate him from very good to truly elite is the jump shot, of course. Over the past 12 to 18 months, Harper has been a respectable 3-point shooter and has improved significantly, although with his playstyle as a downhill creator, adding that consistent 3 that keeps the defense honest and engaged will hugely benefit the rest of his incredible offensive game, and is currently shooting a very impressive 45.5% on catch and shoot 3s. The mechanics look improved and pretty clean to me, and he gets it off quick. He does have a kind of single motion shot with a relatively low release point, which makes him easier to contest, and his base can be a bit funky at times, which leaves quite a few of his misses short, but that can all definitely be tweaked in the future. It's not a go-to option, but when defenders go under or the big doesn't step up, Harper won't hesitate to pull up from deep and make them pay. He's developed steadily as a pull-up shooter over the last few years, to the point where the pull-up 3 is a pretty solid shot for him. Through 11 games, Harper is shooting a decent 29.4% on pull-up 3s, and he's capable of hitting multiple shots in a row with some really tough ones too, and that game-winning 3 against Seton Hall less than a week ago was a sick moment. But he will likely need to add more volume, whether that be more knockdown catch and shoots, or quickly pulling up out of the pick and roll whilst continuing to improve that percentage to be a top tier primary at the NBA level. Whilst Harper has definitely improved as a shooter, he still has quite a lot to clean up. His footwork and balance can be a bit off at times off the dribble and on step backs especially, which lead to some awkward looking shots that haven't really dropped this year. He's missed short on quite a few step backs and fadeaway jump shots, and has had a few rush shots leading to some bad misses, including some air balls. The 36.4% figure at the moment also might not be sustainable, as he's made 12 threes over his last 4 games after making just 8 in his first 8, but maybe he's just found his groove. But in general, Harper is a solid 3-point shooter with a lot of room to grow, who so far has shown a lot of promising signs in his development. Maybe the single most important thing that is lacking at the moment in Harper's game is the counters in the mid-range. Pretty much all of his buckets this year have come at the rim or from the 3, and whilst that isn't necessarily bad, getting more comfortable hitting floaters against dropping bigs or pulling up from the elbow against loaded defenses would help Harper's game in a major way. Occasionally, Harper can force it at the rim, driving into the help and chucking up an ill-advised shot, or getting stuck having to pick up his dribble in a tough spot due to his lack of confidence taking and making pull-up middies and floaters. At this point of the season, he's shooting just 5 of 22 on pull-up 2s and 2 of 9 on runners, which hurts him quite significantly when teams sit multiple guys in gaps and force him to shoot or pass. And that Texas A&M zone resulted in one of his weakest games of the season. The ones he has hit have been pretty clean and natural looking. They fell a lot more during his final EYBL season, but it can look a little awkward and the low release point is very apparent. And he goes to that spin turnaround a decent amount and has had some success, but I'm not sure how viable it'll be against bigger, more athletic defenders. But given his fantastic touch at the rim and very solid free throw numbers at just under 76%, with a few poor nights dragging that number down from the 80s, I'm sure Harper's in-between numbers will improve and steady out at a respectable percentage, as quite a few of them have just rimmed out. But for now, it's a big improvement area that would just add another weapon to his arsenal to keep defenders honest and free up his incredible finishing and playmaking. Now onto his team defense. So far this season, the Rutgers star hasn't had a ton of eye-catching moments as a help defender, noticeable when looking at his sub 3% combined stock rate, but we're only about a third of a way through the season, so that number could easily rise. Harper does have the tools and ability to be an impactful help defender. He can really cover ground on closeouts and use his length and size to blow up plays, get in passing lanes, dig in on a drive, or sprint out to contest a jumper, but he can also overcommit and get beat pretty easily. He can fall asleep off ball or generally just coast, plus he isn't super resilient once he gets hit by a screen or the offense has a significant advantage. Harper has shown flashes of rim protection and opponents are converting just 33% of attempts with him defending, but again, defensive tracking data can be very off. And too often he is late on rotations, and with his size and feel he should be more impactful as a low man, where at the moment he can be a little slow to react or just sticks to his man instead of trusting his teammates to go make a play. His screen navigation off the ball is also inconsistent, but Harper has shown he can play the role of a chaser, getting skinny through screens and staying attached at the hip to force up tough shots. Overall, it is very tough to evaluate guard defense in college hoops with all the zones and switching, let alone a superstar talent like Harper with enormous offensive responsibilities, so I'm not overly concerned, although it is something he'll need to work on to be trusted at the NBA level. So finally, to wrap it all up, in my opinion, Dylan Harper is a special prospect and would be the #1 guy in a lot of drafts, and to be honest could be considered a serious challenger to Coop, but I don't think it'll shake out that way. But Harper himself is an awesome prospect and a truly special driver and finisher with the playmaking and defensive upside to be a serious star in the league. He definitely has some things to work on, like his in-between game, continuing to improve on his jumper and attentiveness defensively, but as an 18-year-old freshman, the things he's done and will continue to do on the floor this season are extraordinary, and I absolutely love watching him. So I'm confident in calling Dylan Harper a top 2 prospect in the draft, and the most real #1 pick challenger in this class. Alright, that is all I've got for this one. This video has been a lot of fun to make, and I'll have more coming next year. Hope everyone has a good break and new year. Appreciate any and all support, and I'll see you in my next video. Anyway, that's all I got. JB Hoops out.